Very quickly before we start this week's video, don't forget to register for the free call in a couple of weeks. It's an opportunity to have a bit of a working session on your 10-year goal, to ask me questions, for us to just have some discussion back and forth, either helping you answer questions, revise a current goal, or even perhaps for the first time begin creating your 10-year goal. Quick reminder, it doesn't have to be 10 years, between 3 and 10. So now to this week's video. This week we are once again, not surprisingly, talking about our 10-year goal. And one of the reasons why sometimes it can be difficult to really get into creating our 10-year goal, or even really fully buy into the idea that it's really a good idea. We have a tendency as human beings to believe that wherever we are today, in our development, our personality, our skills, our likes, our desires, that they are going to stay static. They're not going to change much. Now, this is referred to as the illusion of the end of history illusion, and it's a real thing. The reality is that we change much more as we go into the future than what we really think we are going to. When I first read this, I really went back for myself about 3 years. And I was like, okay, am I really different from 3 years ago? Yes, actually, I'm quite different than I was 3 years ago. There's experiences I've had, things I've tried, and what I want to do more of and what I want to do less of has shifted. If you followed me for a while, you know that a couple of years ago, I had a huge number of gardens taken out of my yard, and I love to garden. That was a huge change that I didn't want that much. I wanted some gardening, not a lot of gardening. We tend, though, to think that wherever we are today, at whatever age, at whatever point in our life, that we're done. We're pretty much the way we're going to be, and it's not true. Part of what they think is driving this, as I read the research on it, is that it is easier for us to remember. So for me, I could go back and think about who I was 3 years ago, and that comes fairly easy. And yet when I think forward, say 3 years, it's harder. It's much murkier. We tend to remember better, and we tend to have weaker imagination. And the skill that allows us to really think into that future is our imagination. If you're struggling to create your 10-year goal, number one, just know it's normal. It's not unusual. You're normal. That's one reason that I'm offering this upcoming free call, is so that we can talk about it, so that I can give you some help. So if you are really struggling to come up with what your 10-year goal, your long-term goal would be, it's not surprising and it's okay. Think back to where you were 3 years ago and what has changed, and you'll see some of those differences. So then it is our imagination that is carrying us forward into being able to look into and see the things that we might want to change. Remember, I've shared that when I first started, my imagination was hugely rusty. I started with very concrete things. If money were no object, what would I want my wardrobe to look like? If I could change parts of the home that I was living in at the time, what would those changes be? It was very, very concrete and not that far into the future, and yet that's the beginning. So if you're struggling, know that it's okay. Join me on the free call in a couple of weeks. And in the meantime, start small. It is with our imagination, our ability to see possibilities into the future, and know that we're likely to change much more than we think we will.